an older league than the CHL is. So I think that's a big factor in all of this as well. And the teams that are looking to win in the NCAA, they have a better likelihood to do that with older players. Now, generational players like Gavin and some other players may have an opportunity to go down there and have success. But that's a little bit of what I think needs to shake out as well, is to see that, hey, not getting top line minutes, not getting power play minutes, those sorts of things aren't actually the best pathway for a player to develop. For us in the OHL, there are two players that have chosen to forego their 19-year-old season at this point in time and head off to the NCAA early. We have quite a number of players that as OAs and those that have also graduated after being an overage player that have gone on, which is now a fantastic opportunity for them to continue to pursue their hockey goals. Right? So that's kind of where we are, and we need to see how things continue to develop and focus on, for us, what has made us the best development league in the world, and the stats bear that out. And, we'll focus on continuing to improve the player experience, doing more in the areas of sports science and strength and conditioning and nutrition and all the sorts of things that impact the player experience and also create better hockey players.
That's actually what I was curious about, Brian. What do you think do you think you need to adapt, change? How do you think the OHL, CHL will, evolve, I guess, in light of all this?
Well, absolutely. We have to continue to adapt. We have to continue to adapt and evolve regardless of this change. And this change is one that, requires, everybody in the hockey ecosystem to adapt, right? Now being able to say, we'll truly have all the best 16, 17, 18-year-old players that are available in playing hockey. And the reality is we need to make sure that we're doing the right things so that they continue with us as 18 and 19-year-olds, continue to develop, that we provide all of the sorts of tools that are necessary to ensure that a player can reach their development goals, right? And so if we're not doing those things, then we are going to fall behind. We are going to be left behind. We're just, comfortable with sitting on, hey, we've had the most number of draft choices, the majority of the players in the NHL, those sorts of things. Well, that's not always going to be the case. And certainly, we're competitive and want to continue to make sure that we maintain the pole position.
With Brian Crawford, the commissioner of the OHL. And, that's a point that I hadn't thought of, the idea that I remember when I was coming up, there were great players that wouldn't play in the OHL. I wasn't one of them, but they wanted to keep, their options alive. I think of a guy like Mike Camilleri. Cammy went to Michigan. He clearly would have been in the OHL at 16. He would have gone first overall. Played at 16, played at 17. Maybe he goes, to Michigan after that, based on where we currently stand. But in terms of this provision that was reported on last week, and I don't know if it's 100% confirmed from the league, but it sounds as if the NHL and the NHLPA have brokered a deal here where each NHL team, so 32 current teams, will be afforded or allowed one 19-year-old CHL player to play in the American Hockey League. If and when that comes to fruition, how would you react to that?
Yeah, so first of all, not accurate.
Okay.
So there is a provision right now in the agreement between the NHL and the NHLPA, and then, of course, ourselves, the CHL and the NHL, that does allow the 19-year-old players to play, a fixed number of games in the AHL, but does require them to go back to junior hockey.
Okay.
So in this current round of negotiations with the collective bargaining with the NHL and the NHLPA, they've agreed to open that provision and look at what that might look like going forward, and whether providing teams and general managers the leeway to do something like that is in the best interest of the league, in the best interest of the development environment. So as it stands today, nothing has actually been decided about mechanics or anything like that, if it is even to go forward. And those are discussions that we actually are very much active in with the NHL in talking about how best to proceed and move forward. We would certainly contend that the AHL is not the best environment for a 19-year-old. Very, very few 19-year-olds, in fact. It's not just about scoring 100 points in the OHL that decides, kind of whether that person should be moving on or not. You think about a 19-year-old, you think about Easton Cowan coming back to the Knights this year. He's the man, right? He's the man. He's the man on the ice. He's the man off the ice, in the dressing room, all around media, all those sorts of things, the leadership qualities, all the pieces that make for a great NHL or a great prospective NHL hockey player that they can gather. You know, the AHL is a man's league, right? There are men trying to make the NHL. And, you know, we certainly contend that the environment in the CHL is much better suited. And it is also not just about that player, but it's also about developing all of the future players so that next year's draft, the year after that, all are quality drafts because those players have been playing against elite players as well.
With Brian Crawford, the commissioner of the OHL. And when I'm curious about this, because, you know, there's 3 leagues, 3 commissioners. London obviously just won the Memorial Cup. In your rookie season as the commissioner, what was that experience like for you? And how do the commissioners, the 3 commissioners, kind of handle the battle once you get to the finish line?
Well, you know, that's the interesting thing. You know, all 3 commissioners are relatively new, really within 2 years, Mario Cecchini being the most veteran of the group, Dan Neer, and then myself. So all relatively new in our positions from different backgrounds, quite diverse from really the commissioners that were previously in the role. So the 3 of us, along with Dan McKenzie, the president of the CHL, work together, you know, extremely well, extremely closely, you know, on a almost daily sometimes, but certainly weekly basis on all the matters related to the CHL and our respective leagues. And of course, there's the competitive spirit. You know, I wanted the OHL to be hoisting the Memorial Cup at the end of all of it. And,
yep.
You know, we might have sat next to each other to watch the game, and we're definitely jabbing each other a little bit here and there. So, you know, it's a great collegial environment. We are kind of lockstep in making sure that the CHL, you know, is the best league in the world and continues to grow and expand and go in new directions that, you know, make it an even better product for the fans and the communities that, you know, we're lucky to be in.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I love the OHL. I love the CHL. I think I speak for Canadians from coast to coast. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Brian, but I appreciate your insight as always. And enjoy the rest of the summer. We'll do it again in the fall. Thank you for this.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There he is, Brian Crawford, commissioner of the OHL. So interesting that, you know, he brings up a very good point about keeping your, I guess, ability to go to the NCAA. That was always an issue for a lot of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. But now that the rules are completely changed, you don't have to play like junior B or junior A. You don't have to. You can go to the OHL. You can go to the CHL and play, even if your intention is to leave. Mm-hmm. But you can get 2 years out of, you know, a kid that goes to college where you didn't get to have that in the past. And obviously what their attack plan is, based on what Brian's insinuating, is get them in and try to keep them. But, you know, we'll see what happens with the NHL stuff if they open the door for a 19-year-old to play.
I like that rule, I got to be honest.
To what? Allow them to go play in the American League?
Yeah, because like every year at training camp, it like just covering the Leafs, there's always one, not always, but there's usually one player who is like, yeah, shouldn't really be going back to junior. Like he's probably too good for junior, but he's clearly not good enough for the NHL. And it's like, well, what do you do with him? Like Cowan was a great example last year. It's like he had this unbelievable year 2 seasons ago, and then he comes to camp and it's like he's not ready. Like it's very clear he's not ready. And like, what are your options? Like you can't put him in the NHL because he's not ready, and you can't put him in the AHL because he's too young. So you just have to send him back, and it's like that doesn't feel like a fair solution for him,
even for the player. Exactly.
Yeah, like I know what Brian's saying. Like, yeah,
every league has like he's representing the Ontario
sure.
Hockey League, which he should. That's his
100%.
job. You know, but